Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Christy Hughes. I've been on the founding team of faculty and the advisory board for the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy from its very inception. And I have to say, the topic that we're going to cover today is absolutely one of my favorite. I have been not only engaged in teaching and training healthcare providers in functional medicine, but I've also had the privilege of working with nutrition professionals as well as coaches over the course of the last few years. And building teams and creating bridges between healthcare providers where we put the patient in the center is truly one of my most important aspects of my practice and my own personal mission. So the subject matters that we're going to be covering today are going to involve how do we start to implement and leverage the functional medicine model as we're starting to advance and work our way forward in applying some of these important and critical skill sets that you're learning over the course of this program. So where we're going to start today is we're going to talk about how you can leverage functional medicine coaching as a part of your behavior change resources within your own practice, within your coaching business, or within that of a larger collaborative care team if you happen to be within a medical model. So at the end of this session, my goal for you today is that you can walk away clearly understanding our primary teaching tools that we use in functional medicine. So this is going to include the functional medicine tree, the timeline, and the matrix. And there are also 6 important steps when it comes to implementing functional medicine. We call it the functional medicine heuristic or operating system. And we're going to talk about why it's important for you to be aware of this so that the patient or client receiving care from your team is experiencing the same language considerations and you're all speaking, or maybe I would say even singing from the same hymnal if you want to look at it from that silly perspective. So here are some important functional medicine coaching considerations. The role for the coach on a collaborating team is really important, and how you plug into that component is really key. The language that you use with both the other healthcare providers or coaches you're working with, as well as the patients, will be important for continuity of care. We also want to discuss the value of having practitioners referring to coaches. There's some very important ways that we know that with the practitioner referral, you can help to support the ongoing needs of the practice to help facilitate that patient moving forward. Part of your role in that process is going to be helping move the patient forward with some key educational needs. But you're going to serve as a valuable bridge, a really key bridge between the patient back to the clinical team. We know that not only is it important how the practitioner refers to you, but we also know that it's important that as you move forward in identifying, establishing, and supporting those patients' health goals, that we're all looking at things through the same lens that includes the illness-wellness continuum. Some of the key techniques and terms you're going to learn today, we're going to start to apply in our coaching sessions. And as I mentioned, they're going to be imperative if you're working on a clinical team or working with various different healthcare providers that think and practice within the functional medicine model. This is the very beginning of a series of months in which you're going to learn about different food plans, different lifestyle programs, and we're going to be opening up these discussion points so that you too learn how to further personalize or create specific interventional programs for clients and patients using many of the different tools that you have access to through the collaboration between FMCA and the Institute for Functional Medicine. And last, we're going to talk about the role that lifestyle education plays. There is a need for the coach on a collaborative care team to teach, inspire, and inform patients, but how we get to that conversation, the ways in which we engage the client or the patient in that discussion are imperative because we want to stay out of that advice-giving role or that expert opinion role, which we've heard about in previous sessions. Again, you've got some brilliant faculty that have brought this to the surface. Dr. Frades, Lyra Heller, many of your previous faculty have spoken to the need to educate, but to do so with permission and to ensure that the client or patient is ready to be able to receive that information. So where I want to start is I want to step back and make sure that you are clear with what functional medicine is, and by definition, what are the 3 components that every functional medicine provider is working towards? Well, functional medicine addresses the underlying causes of disease. And truly, lifestyle plays a substantial role in many of the chronic diseases that our patients are dealing with today. So your role on this team is imperative in helping our patients and clients understand the cause, as well as ways in which diet, nutrition, movement, sleep, and various other factors could have contributed to their problems and also are connected to the solutions to their problems. What's unique about functional medicine is that it lives within the systems biology approach. Systems biology is what differentiates conventional healthcare from the functional medicine applications. Looking at systems and physiology through a harmonious integration is different than managing symptoms or diseases. And that's what is unique about functional medicine. And here is where not only you, but healthcare providers play an important role. The third component of functional medicine is the participation and the engagement in which the practitioner and their patient are involved in a therapeutic partnership. Functional medicine leverages the importance of not moving into the doctor-dictator space, but instead embracing a coach approach to healthcare, regardless of who are the team members on that collaborative care model. So I want to introduce you to the functional medicine tree. And some of you may have seen this in the past or previously, but what is so beautiful about this tree is it represents and symbolizes each and every one of us as we're growing, developing, and maturing through life. We see up in the branches of the tree, we see the leaves and the branches are areas where we can visually see that there have been some trends or tendencies towards symptoms or dysfunctions and problems. We know that in pruning a tree or working with gardeners, it isn't that we're always going to be going after that expression, but we're often going to look towards the soil and consider the health of the roots and make sure that in order for our plants to flourish and live in a healthy, optimal manner, we want to make sure that the stability factors are there. And in functional medicine, we're much like a gardener. We're going to not only look at the way that tree is blossoming, but we are also going to be considering its stability, its strength. We're going to consider the integrity of those roots and all those aspects that truly feed into and nourish the existence of that living organism. So we as humans, we're very similar, and this model resonates well for many patients. So the area where you shine as a coach is you get the opportunity to dig deeper and look very carefully into what some of these primary lifestyle factors are. These are the areas where you coach, you support, and you guide. So we're going to break down the go-to-it model. This is the heuristic that I mentioned to you earlier. This takes us through multiple steps of a process of seeing our patients until we get them to the point of maintenance and ongoing tracking. You play an important role in onboarding that patient within a clinical practice or supporting a client in your own individual practice outside. And you play an important role in bringing information back to both your client or back to the clinical team that's managing the patient. So the go-to-it stands for gathering of oneself as well as that patient or client's information. We organize the information that we uncover in a specific format called the functional medicine matrix. Here is what's very important and uniquely different about conventional versus functional medicine approach. The practitioner engages the patient in retelling them their life story, in sharing with them how they got to this point and ideas about how to correct the path. The practitioner engages the patient as they prioritize and decide where do they begin first. And then they initiate further assessment, additional testing, referrals, or their clinical care. And then here again, you play an important, valuable role in many steps of this way, tracking their progress, following them for success, and bringing them through these transitional states to maintenance is really key. And here is where a health coach can really strengthen the clinical results that our practitioners are experiencing. So the two primary tools, the functional medicine timeline and matrix, these two are designed to facilitate a healthy and engaging conversation. They're there to bring information into the team, but they're also there to help facilitate a connection. Important points of connection, empowering the patient building rapport, securing trust to move forward with greater compliance and cooperation. The tool that you see now on the screen is called the Functional Medicine Timeline. And you're going to get to play with this tool yourself. You're going to see us modeling the use of this tool. You're going to see the opportunity to take yourself through the creation of your own timeline. And if you're working with a collaborative care team physician, you're going to find that most of the patients will come to you with a timeline already created and done. And that healthcare provider referring to you may share with you some of the clinical takeaways and the relevant aspects that are important for you to know. Here's an example of a timeline that's been filled in. Now you'll see off to the far left, we've got all these various different factors that influenced this particular patient before she was born. Everything to the far left of that dotted line is representing a window of time before birth. And those influential factors can come from family history, the trip through in utero and visiting, the womb and the exposures that may have happened during that phase. And they go on to then express through various different factors in somebody's life development. Now, the age is placed inside of that timeline, representing at what age or in which stage different things presented that were relevant to the health of this patient. The healthcare providers are trained to use this tool to identify their current concerns and health challenges, and then to be able to go back and individually identify, well, what are the important mile markers along the way that we want to consider as we're seeking to dig deeper and deeper and identify or find the cause of the problem. So what really is the role of the health coach when utilizing the functional medicine timeline? Well, it's important for you to be able to look at that health history and ask them further questions that might relate to their food intake history or challenging windows of time and issues that they've dealt with, and in a very valuable way to explore struggles they may have had with relationships to food. So utilizing this timeline for you in the coaching role is valuable to bring you not only forward with the team, but to better understand the patient's journey, that client's history, so that you know how to support them most effectively. The second tool is the functional medicine matrix. And in all honesty, this one is rather complicated. It takes some time for the functional medicine physicians and healthcare providers to get a handle on how to use it. It really involves leveraging the field of medicine, their understanding of physiology and science, but there are parts to this matrix that relate to you directly. So for example, the entire base or the bottom of this matrix model represents the lifestyle factors that can be modifiable and our patients, our clients, can do something about. This is going to be one of the greatest areas that you as a coach are going to focus on, and one of the most valuable reasons why those physicians and healthcare providers are going to hire you and bring you onto their team. The practitioners are responsible for gathering the medical history and determining the physiologic underlying causes, but you're in this position a unique opportunity to help facilitate them moving forward and making rapid progressions. So the relationship that you have to this tool is you can further educate the patient on their own unique needs. You are there to inspire them, motivate them to continue moving forward with their healthcare plan, and you can use this as a critical tool to help coach them to further success. So if we just take a moment and pause and look at this particular patient's matrix filled out after looking at her timeline, we can see there's all kinds of tips and unique aspects that are present and available for us to look at and decide, yeah, okay, we know the things we might want to talk about and further explore with this patient. And again, we can use these to understand the client or patient's goals, how to help them identify some of those important aspects that relate back to their choices and the things that they can modify and change, as well as being able to make sure that their medical goals and needs are met that the entire team is responsible for. So again, educate, inspire, motivate, and go on to coach to success. Now, many of you are going to find that much of your conversation revolves around nutrition, food choices, and the management of stress. There's no question. This is one of the bigger struggling areas that a lot of the clients walking in your door are going to discuss. So you will see throughout the course of this entire 12-month program, there is a deep emphasis and a really deep dive down into learning about foundational healthy food choices. And you are going to leave with a treasure trove full of mindfulness and stress reduction related techniques that you can bring forth and personalize to help the patients and clients that you're working with achieve their key goals. So let's step back for a moment and say, well, why do we partner? Well, why are we partnering on a team? Well, it's because we now know that getting healthy is actually a team sport. The more that we can build a team and put that patient in the center, the more successful that client is going to be, the more compliant they're going to be, the more supported they're going to feel, and we're going to see that translate out very effectively into their compliance and their clinical results. So the term collaborative care team is the term that's used to describe the team that rallies together to support that patient in making lifestyle and nutrition changes. And as you can see, you're one of the most important members on that team. So there's a whole host of different types of practitioners that might touch that patient in their care or be involved or engaged. And know that we at the Institute for Functional Medicine and the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, we all heavily encourage the team approach because no one person is good at everything. As a matter of fact, you can't specialize in all these areas. And if you've got a very effective and productive practice, from a time management perspective, you can't do it all. So we heavily encourage practitioners to really bring forward that unique team spirit. So I love this quote by Rachel. Perhaps the most basic skill of the physician is the ability to have comfort with uncertainty, to recognize with humility the uncertainty inherent in all situations, to be open to the ever-present possibility of the surprising, the mysterious, and even the holy, and to meet people here. As you know, the evolution within modern medicine is drifting away from that doctor dictator, that's probably a new word I should use, doctator, is drifting away from that model and really knowing that we don't know it all. And often the more we know we don't know. And it again gives us permission to remember that so much happens in the coaching space with the client where their own internal epiphanies and moments of insight lead to their healing response, not the prescription pad and often not the pill. So we know on that collaborative care team role, we know right where you belong. So not only are the health coaches being trained to support the model, but we are striving in the functional medicine world to bring those, also I would call them primary care physicians and upper level providers into the realm of understanding the coach approach so that the patient feels supported. And as they transition into working with other team members, they truly know they're part of a clinical team. It is key that the referral process back and forth between the coaches and those in the prescribing role, we've got to make sure that that pathway is open, that the communication is present, and that your language is in sync. So as we go on to continue to explore the art of coaching, we know that it takes many different steps for our patients and clients to arrive at that point of success. You will often find that you are a cheerleader, you're there to support, you're there to inspire, you're there to provoke with the right kind of introspective questions. And again, you're there to help them plot their path, become committed to their own path and their own goals, and to help them work through those obstacles as they present. The health coach does have some very specific levels of accountability back to the client, right? You are meant to stay in that space of evidence-based practice interventions, to come from the place of empathy and compassion, and to be engaged in teaching them strategies that will help them become healthy. We know the client too has responsibilities to that relationship. They present because of their health condition and concerns, but they also have their own beliefs, their own values, and their own concerns that you want to work with. There can be influential factors there related to their culture. There can also be impacts related to which generation they were raised within and that they participate within. So we do know that there's this ongoing feed-forward cycle to create healthy outcomes that, again, draw us back to accountability and self-management on the part of both the health coach as well as the client. You are there to partner, to set goals, and to keep driving forward the client's agenda in a safe and effective way. Now, establishing rapport becomes a very key aspect of how we see success happen in functional medicine. So we do know that when someone is in more of a relaxed state, when they're in a trusting space, where they feel that compassion and empathy, they're going to have physiologic changes, they're going to respond more effectively, and they're going to transform at a much more rapid rate. So as we learn more and more about the importance of the stress response, we then start to see how the coaching relationship becomes also a solution in their stress management program. We have heard and will continue to build upon some of the fundamentals of motivational interviewing. And again, we want to move through the phases where we are engaging that client and building some important foundational base points. We want to guide them forward. We want to really evoke them to move forward in their process and plan ways that they can bridge and move forward with healthy, effective change. Important coaching tips and takeaways. We are in this relationship with the client in the center, and we are engaging them at this level, and we have to continue to keep ourselves in check, suspending our own ego, suspending our own judgment. We've got beautiful principles that we can leverage and we can work off of. And an important thing to keep coming back to, especially when the practitioner referring to you is expecting you to deliver a certain level of education and information, we want to make sure that we use the right techniques that can guide us giving and providing that information or advice in a way that they are ready, that they are receptive, and we know for sure that they're going to be able to take this dialogue and this conversation and move it forward in a healthy and productive manner. And that's some of the important coaching techniques that you've been learning in the course of the first, second, and third modules of this program. So how do we help to facilitate goal setting? Well, you've got some beautiful tools that have come forward within the coaching model as well as from IFM that help to support bridging techniques and strategies so that we can reach and accomplish those goals. We're going to leverage the knowledge and information we've gathered from that patient so that we can become specific and clear in the types of goals that we're going to strive to accomplish. There are some powerful tools that you can use to get to know them better, to help prioritize and understand where they're struggling and where the patient or client wants to put their attention or focus. The goal in the illness-wellness continuum is to move from this ongoing trajectory towards chronic disease and shift that to the other end of the spectrum where we're focusing on ideal and optimal health and wellness. We've got powerful tools in your toolbox that you can start to work with. Now, I'm not sure if you have used the self-care questionnaire yet with clients or on yourself, but I highly recommend and advise you, I do advise that you take a shot at using this tool yourself and really think about what does it provoke for you and what are areas that maybe you weren't even thinking about or realizing you were coming in deficient. I ask the physicians in our training courses to do the same thing. This questionnaire was built at IFM, and the team I had working on this literally spent over a year's time diving into some of the important aspects of self-care and ways that we can turn our attention on some of those most important modifiable lifestyle factors. This is a brilliant teaching and talking tool to work off of, and it's fantastic for tracking our patient over time. This tool is wonderful for being able to identify goals and priorities. I would also then encourage you to get familiar with one of the goal setting tools that relates to the SMART goals. Now, you've been hearing about this and you're going to continue to hear about SMART goals. And there's a beautiful resource that the IFM team put together and you have access to in your Coaching Academy resource guide that helps you break down the specific, measurable, the action-oriented, realistic, and timely aspects of goals that you and the client are working towards. And you'll see that that tool allows for you to summarize and shine the light on the key highlights that are important and are really valuable to move that patient or client forward. So how are we going to look at implementing the functional medicine aspects? Well, Critical aspects of functional medicine, again, are engaging that heart-brain connection, being in relationship with that patient and partnership. We need to gather ourselves. We need to make sure that when we present to the patient and we sit in space with our clients, that we have all of our aspects in check. We want to also make sure that besides gathering ourselves, we want to be gathering or reviewing what the healthcare provider has gathered for us to consider. The physicians are often going to be looking very carefully at lab markers, tracking nutrition findings, looking at proteins, fats, and carbs, considering mineral deficiencies or vitamin deficiencies, and looking very carefully at different phytonutrient components as they relate to our patient's state of health and nutrition. There's a host of various different laboratory tests and physical exam elements that can be brought forward within a functional medicine practice. You might also find that your referring provider is suggesting or recommending that the client use one of the diet, nutrition, and lifestyle journals. This is available in a 1-day, a 3-day, or a 7-day format. And honestly, there are some of my own patients that I suggest use this tool, sometimes for 21 or 28 days. What is so wonderful about gathering information about our patient with this tool is this tool ties together food patterns with lifestyle behaviors and various different factors impacting our mental, emotional, and our spiritual balance. So in the functional medicine model, the timeline, the medical symptom questionnaire, some of the physical exam findings and laboratory findings are all coupled together and brought forward in this phase that we refer to as the gathering and organizing phase. As we gather and pull that information together, we can determine how to move that patient forward and start to customize or target a personalized plan that meets their needs. Once we've gathered that information and we organize it, we then share what we have found with our patient and client. And again, we move forward to order, to prioritize, and to decide where do we go next. And so often the nutrition evaluation helps us identify or locate where there may be a cause or multiple causes that are stemming back to someone's nutrition or diet that could truly transform their medical case and move them forward very effectively. So your role on the team is going to be to further the gathering process, to support that organization, to reinforce and back the patient's retelling of their story, and to be able to execute on those priorities. And you're often going to be engaged at the level of initiating further care and support. Now, some of the most important tools that you'll touch over the course of your year in this program are going to be the nutrition coaching resources. So I want to shine the light on this tool. This is, I think, one of the most important tools that you feel familiar and comfortable with. And this is the Functional Medicine Prescription and Lifestyle Plan. This is a summary document that organizes what it is that the patient and the practitioner have agreed to execute on. Now, you can use this as one of your tools with your clients if you're in a private practice. But know, once again, you're not doing the prescribing, correct? You are not prescribing their exercise. You're not prescribing their nutrition plan. You're executing on some of the various different plans and needs and goals to move your client forward. It is important that our nutrition professionals and health coaches, they must integrate the physician's prescription with the goals if you're working on a clinical care team model. Now, we have great and beautiful resources that you can use as cross-communication tools between coach, nutrition professional, and physician. So please be aware that as you and your clinical team develop and mature in how you work together, make sure that you're leveraging the resources that you literally have at your fingertips. So when we move forward to initiate various different types of food planning and nutrition, it's important that you understand the tools in your toolbox and how we might use them. Over the course of this year, you're going to be exposed to more and more of the IFM food plans. And they are broken down into fundamental food plans and good, healthy, clean diets. That's the whole core food plan suite. That's available in a format that does include animal products. There's a vegan, vegetarian, and pescatarian version of all of those resources. That's good, healthy eating. That is teaching somebody the right foods, the quality foods, and most certainly how to choose how much to eat. As you move beyond those fundamentals, you will see that there are our first step dietary interventions. These first step plans work with blood glucose management and the reduction of food triggers. And then there's an entire subsection of advanced therapeutic interventions, which you will be exposed to and you will be trained to implement and execute on, where the physician or the prescribing practitioner may then encourage or even insist that the patient move towards the use of these different food plans as part of their medical care, because food is medicine. So the tool that we call the prescription and lifestyle plan is a place to summarize that referral process. You may be receiving prescriptions from healthcare providers where it offers directives of what plan, how much to eat, and how to divide up those macronutrients. A trained functional medicine provider will be familiar with all these food plans and know how to cross-communicate with you. Often it's your role and responsibility to engage that patient and teach them how food is energy, how what they put in their mouth becomes information, speaking to their physiology and their genetics, how we acknowledge that food plays such an important role as a connecting point between people, emotions, and relationships. And ultimately, to retrain them that when we're making healthy food choices, it's not always what we're not eating, it's often what we are starting to include, how often and in which manner, that allow for food to transform into medicine. So you will see that the tool flows through nutrition, then into our foundational lifestyle factors. And if your practitioner is recommending supplementation, there's a space on this tool for that information to be included. We do know that movement and exercise and rest and sleep are a critical part of health and wellness. We actually have one of our faculty members, Dr. Elizabeth Frades, is an expert in this area, not only in understanding the relationship that exercise has to medicine, but the role that coaching plays in motivating people to move and rest. We are certainly aware of the fact that how well you sleep, whether you take time for daytime rest, if you're involved in a vigorous exercise program, and how much you move during the day, we know that all four of these components can truly push throughout the entire health of an individual. These are important areas to consider and to coach and support. We want to make sure that we see our clients in motion and in movement, and there may be times where we refer them out for a true formal exercise prescription. Some of the unique tools that can help to support this go back to, there's this daily activity questionnaire, and within it gives us an idea to be thinking about some of the things our clients or patients can do. Now, these are tools that are often implemented or used in even disability cases, or an opportunity for tracking and following support with insurance reimbursement. So you have these beautiful tools that can be used to gauge where a patient begins, and then to be able to mark or track how they're improving or areas that they still may be experiencing challenge within. We know that exercise is medicine, and it isn't that we're sending necessarily every patient to the gym, but you can coach to movement. You can coach to taking the stairs over the escalator. You can coach to parking further away from the front door and walking a little bit more. There are many aspects that you as the health coach can be engaged in, and that involves motivating them, encouraging them, and inspiring them to build the right members of their team. Now, one of the articles that Dr. Frades speaks to is published back in 2000. I remember hearing her speak about this at Harvard at her Institute for Lifestyle Medicine conference. And this is literally probably going back, gosh, I'm going to say now somewhere close to, maybe 2002, 2004. And when she said these words to me, they stuck with me and hit me so strong as a physician in the audience. Hearing her talk about the important role that the physician's exercise plays on their prescribing, like I had an aha moment. So in this publication, they talk about the relationship that practitioners have to exercise has a direct relationship and impact on the way they counsel and encourage their patients to move. It's pretty powerful. It's a walk the talk kind of moment. those healthcare providers that were involved in aerobic training and cardiovascular programs, well, they advised and counseled and encouraged their patients to do the same. Those who were comfortable with their own strength training program, well, they did the same. They encouraged their patient to start some light weights or break through those barriers of getting a home gym or get into the gym and start to move. You know, it is so interesting. Really, the main barriers that come up when we're looking at physicians talking about exercise have to do that there's just lack of time to teach and educate, and there's also lack of knowledge. So many physicians have never been trained on the way in which exercise is medicine. So do know that we have a pandemic issue of physicians who are not moving, who are not engaged in exercise programs, and who are not talking to their patients about the role that movement plays. So a formal exercise prescription can take place. Sometimes you will find that offices are bringing a qualified personal trainer onto the team. You know, a personal trainer that thinks in the functional medicine mindset is a remarkable and key addition to any clinical team where we have patients who need to not only start moving, but do so with more of a focus and a program that changes and keeps them engaged and helps them reach their ideal clinical outcomes. Now, you will find that in the toolkit, there are many different resources that speak to the improvements and need for movement. And so these are all tools you have, again, at your fingertips to support that patient and move them forward with considering ways that they could start moving their bodies. So please do know that you've got some wonderful tools that encourage gentle movement. Therapeutic sleep and daytime rest or meditation or naps or mindfulness are another important aspect of our foundations and lifestyle. A whole set of the tools that you have to work with draws on questionnaires, an opportunity to further explore a history related to sleep and insomnia, and to look at some of the daytime lifestyle factors that could impose or impair someone's ability to sleep well and get better sleep. So not only are the questionnaires available to dig deeper into understanding the patient's patterns, but also you're going to see that there's handouts and tools available to encourage and support them moving forward with healthy strategies for better sleep. So that brings us to resilience. And this is one of the valuable roles that the coach play, is helping our individual clients and patients realize how they can manage stress more effectively. And honestly, myself, you know, here is a place where sometimes I go back and I draw upon their character strengths and I draw them back to the things that matter most to them. I want to know what matters most, because those are the areas that we can really move the needle on and we can create a higher level of associated positive outcome. So imagination is more important than knowledge. And you allowing for that client or patient to travel in their mind and throughout their heart and soul and explore what are their goals and why do they want to reach them will allow for you together imagine ways for how they can accomplish them. So do know, teaching them curiosity, exploration, and having that mindset for growth and expansion, it's one of the greatest gifts you can give them as a coach on their team. So know that beautiful tools have been created under the guidance of our mindfulness team back at the Institute for Functional Medicine. We drew on individuals like Dr. David Jones. We integrated practitioners like Patrick Hanaway, Beth Frades. Let me go down the list. Certainly Monique Klass, Bethany Hayes. There's a remarkable team of physicians and coaches who implement in their practice mindful meditation, visualization, and guided imagery, who helped co-create and craft the tools that you have access to within your resources. One of my favorite tools is the gratitude journal, and having individuals each and every day come back around to and identify what they're grateful for. And I have to say, I am enrolled again. I'm in the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy course myself as a student. 5 years later from helping, support the launch of this curriculum, I decided to come back and take the whole entire program from this side of the computer screen. And I went back in and I redid my own character strengths recently, having not done them since 5 years ago. And it was so amazing for me to see my number one character strength was gratitude, and number two was love. I thought, no wonder this is one of my favorite tools. I absolutely do love and appreciate this tool because I think there's such power in every day reminding ourselves what's wonderful, what's moving in the right direction, and showing thanks for the things that really matter most. So do know that this tool flows all the way down through those lifestyle factors, and then you may be in the role of supporting the implementation of prescribed nutrients or reinforcing medications. So I want to thank you for participating in this conversation. I know what a wonderful program you're involved in. I do know it's a lot of material, and often you're going to be implementing, some of these resources for mindfulness and resilience as you work your way through all the content and curriculum. I firmly believe that every functional medicine provider should have their own functional medicine coach on their team. As a team, we can leverage these tools more effectively. And when we put the patient in the center of their care, we can implement the heuristic or the functional medicine operating system with greater ease. So I wish you the best on your journey and your exploration in becoming a coach. Be creative, be imaginative, and really explore all the possibilities and potential for you as you enter the work world and you start to implement these skills with those who need you most. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate in your education process.